Next up, we're going to have an armchair conversation led by Heidi VanGenderen from the University of Colorado at Boulder. This conversation is all about universities and their commitment to sustainability and the roadmaps there. So Heidi will take it away.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody awake? All right, just check in. Barkley said, would you like the yoga lady to go before or after? And then he looked around and she's not here. I thought, okay, should I wing it? Doubtful. Pleasure to be here with you all. I want to just start with a personal thanks, and that is to Chip and Sally. I've had a chance to be at several of the AREDAYs through the years in various iterations in my life, and it's always a pleasure and so much food for thought. A particular pleasure for me to be here today with David Kang, who is the Vice Chancellor for Infrastructure and Sustainability at the University of Colorado in Boulder. And I'm particularly grateful to Dave because he knew that when Barack Obama and I lost our jobs at exactly the same moment, I needed a new one. So he decided that perhaps it was time for the University of Colorado to have the position of Chief Sustainability Officer, which it's now my honor to occupy. Dave has an interesting history, and we'll get into that a little bit as the conversation goes on, but let me start by asking you, why'd you take the job that you have, and what's your near-term, mid-term, and long-term vision for sustainability at our university?
Yeah, just a little bit about my background. I spent the last 20 plus years actually in the Navy and did some really interesting things. My last job was at the White House, really focused on resiliency and continuity. Prior to that, I was the Director for Shore Energy for the Department of the Navy, where I worked on our 1 gigawatt goal for renewable energy, which we actually achieved 4 years early. So when this opportunity came up to come to Boulder, it really was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to really do things that I was very interested in. And sustainability was at the top of the list. The community that we live in, the ability to interact with academia and research was really exciting. And then to be able to engage with the students who are the future of this country and this world, and to have an impact on how they think, how they live, and hopefully how they act in the future was really, really exciting. You know, some of the short-term things that we worked on, my first priority was to hire Heidi. So creating the Chief Sustainability Officer position, somebody who can engage with the community, go to events like this, partner and collaborate with industry, with academia, and really make some really good forward momentum in the things that we're working on. We're in the process of developing an energy master plan. What are the areas that we want to focus on? Efficiency, consumption reductions, renewable energy, emissions. These are things that are very important, and we're working on actually a strategy to get there, not just put a goal out there, but actually a plan to get there. Another really exciting thing, and I think we have a picture, is we're in the process of creating what we call a living sustainability laboratory. So we're very fortunate to have a microgrid already. So we're creating a microgrid within the microgrid where we can integrate research, have collaboration with industry, and we have a strong venture capital community as well within Boulder. So how do we put all of those things together with government, the city of Boulder, the state, the national labs that are here in Colorado as well, to really, really make good progress on multiple fronts as it pertains to climate action, sustainability, resiliency. And another really exciting thing that really Heidi led was the University Climate Change Coalition. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Surely. So Donald Trump pulled the United States out of the Paris Accord, and Janet Napolitano, who was governor of Arizona, went on to be the Secretary for Homeland Security in the Obama administration, then became the president of the University of California system. She heard about the president's actions and thought that that was fair malarkey, I think is how she described it. Perhaps there was a stronger term that she used. She turned to her staff and said, we need to step up and we need to form a coalition of public research universities who are working on climate science and climate solutions. And I'd like you to go out and figure out which of the top public research universities in those fields from Canada to Mexico are, and let's craft a letter and invite them to join. We had a long story short. The letter of invitation came to the University of Colorado system. We have 4 campuses, 2 in Denver, 1 in Colorado Springs, and the flagship university campus where Dave and I work in Boulder. And the president of the university system said, no thanks. And we went back to California and said, would you be interested in just our campus joining? Because we absolutely embraced the aims of the University Climate Change Coalition in the use of the university as distinct in its convening power in the community in which it resides. So the university, as a convener to bring together the business sector, the NGO sector, academia as a convener, and the public sector as the key sectors in this society that move forward the policy, the technology, the financing, and the deployment of low-carbon strategies. So our chancellor read the letter of invitation and said, absolutely, we should join this. So we are now part of 14 universities from Canada to Mexico that are part of this coalition. We will be holding a convening in July as our initial commitment to that. The reports from each of the respective convenings are going to go into a progress report that will be rolled out at the Global Climate Summit in San Francisco in September, which was referenced a couple times yesterday. It's but the beginning for us, we hope, in terms of the practical work that will result from that. And we hope that that convening in July actually has and it's been terrific to hear all the speakers here for the last 2 days. It's going to have a really project-focused, what are we going to do? Innovative financing mechanisms being a key strategy there.
Yeah, so the idea is, how can we actually show by example what we can do locally and regionally? And then if you look across the map of the United States and where all of our universities are located, colleges and universities, they're spread all throughout the country. And then if you expand that out throughout the world, what can we do? There's a lot. And so trying to actually show what's possible if a university does this convening and actually gets folks that are interested in this conversation to actually do things.
So what do you consider, you've been there a couple years now, what are the most looming challenges? What are the greatest challenges that you've faced in your work been?
My focus, I think, and it's similar to a lot of folks as well, I think, I need to keep the doors open. So my job is to make sure that the campus stays open. So when we talk about resiliency, whether it's a snowstorm or a fire or a flood, we had major flooding in 2013 in Boulder. Campus had $10.7 million in damage. We closed our doors. That's not how we advance the mission of the university, which is education and research. It stops. So I'm focused on how do I keep the doors open? How do I keep the research going? How do I keep the classrooms running? As we do that, though, I think there's a great overlap with sustainability initiatives, right? Efficiency, it impacts the bottom line. It makes the campus safer. It makes the campus more resilient if I can create a microgrid, integrate solar, energy storage, distributed energy. These are all things that are important for multiple reasons, right? The bottom line, resiliency. It also helps with environmental impacts. And so the conversation that we're having is, how do we work together? What are the things that folks are interested in, whether you're a researcher or whether you're a student or whether you're the chief financial officer? And how do we make sure that what we do is in alignment and people are supportive of our initiatives?
Boulder is an interesting community. I lived there 20 years ago, raised 2 little kids for 9 years, and then had the good fortune to return, but I have been struck by many aspects of it. Talk to us a bit about how you've come into Boulder. It is an affluent, largely white community. How do we harness that affluence? How have you and your family been treated? Talk to us about Boulder.
So that's a little bit off of the energy topic or sustainability topic, but
it's on equity, which is, of course, a key tenet of sustainability, big part of the discussion here.
So if you look at affordability, just some recent stats came out. The average home price in Boulder is $1.2 million. The median home price is $900,000. So affordability is a huge issue. We have over 60,000 people that commute into Boulder. So we have transportation issues, we have congestion issues, we have quality of life issues. Specifically for the university, we have recruitment and retention issues for the workforce and for the students as well. Talk about kind of the diversity issue. I don't look like most folks in Boulder. You know, I grew up in California. I spent the last 6 years in DC, and it was a hard transition. You know, very personal. When I would, because I'm a vice chancellor at the university, I get invited to, you know, the Dalai Lama, or when, you know, Secretary Gates come, and I get looks from people sometimes, like, why are you sitting here? Or can I see your ticket? You know, before they let me into the reserved area, where they don't ask other folks. You know, I've been there 2 years now, and so most people know me. I know the mayor, I know the city council, I know folks. I just ran the Boulder, and they like called me out by name because in the wave that I was, so I'm there, but it took 2 years to get there. And it's unfortunate that you kind of have to prove yourself before maybe you get accepted. But yeah, it wasn't an easy transition, but I think the desire to be inclusive is there. It's a challenge, though, I think, to get there. And I think it's really a lack of experience more than anything because of the lack of exposure.
Right.
Yeah.
How are the university leaders, I mean, what are they doing on broadening the student portfolio?
You know, we have some really exciting initiatives. So if you come to Boulder, the most diverse community is the university. It really is, and that's really exciting. We have some really lofty goals. Our College of Engineering, for instance, is looking at having 50% of its student population for the College of Engineering be women, right? And it's a deliberate strategy to do that. We have a lot of strategies on how we make our students feel more inclusive, and not just our students, our faculty and staff, but how do we do that together? And so, you know, if you are at all aware of some of the rhetoric around the campus and the environment, free speech is one of those areas that is always in the news. And I'm very proud to say that I think we provide an opportunity where we allow that free debate to happen. And I'm very proud of that we don't hold down one conversation because it's on the left or on the right. We say everybody is welcome to come to our campus and enlighten, have a debate, and you can form your own opinions, but we're not going to stifle that debate. So it's really exciting to be at CU Boulder because I think the leadership, the students, the faculty, and the staff all embody that spirit.
So I'm seeing on our, there's your microgrid slide. I'm seeing on our slides here, we have a number of, the first building at the university was built in 1876, Old Main. It's recognizable. We'll talk transportation here in a minute, but the Old Main, by the way, the very steep set of stairs that when you see that slide come around again, whether it's apocryphal or not, I don't know, but they tell you that the reason those steps are so steep is because that was to keep the cattle out. So they're building the first building, which is now 142 years old. So, Dave, in your job in overseeing the, you know, I think of my job in kind of 3 buckets. We've got the operations, so that's the built environment, the whole all systems thinking and reality on the campus side. building a bridge to the academics, obviously. How does CU Boulder raise its reputation and capacities on the academic side? And then the engagement side, as Dave mentioned, in concert with collaboration with the outside community. You've got a very old built environment in a lot of ways. How are we doing on the buildings front? There was based on the panel this morning on the remarkable financial opportunities that reside in retrofit of existing buildings and the notion of building living buildings going forward.
Yeah, you know, and this is not just our problem, but if you look across all of the universities, the deferred maintenance backlog is significant. For our campus, I put it in the range of $1.4 to $1.8 billion.
Billion.
Things that we have to address. I have a saying, the most efficient building is the one that I don't have to build. So we're really focusing on the assets that we have and how do we best utilize them. So one of the things that we did was create a space optimization office. So we hired a director, and his sole job is to look at how spaces are being utilized on campus so we can actually use those spaces more efficiently so I don't have to build more. The other thing that we're undertaking right now are design standards for when we renovate and build new buildings, really thinking about the life cycle cost of the building and not necessarily the first cost. Resiliency, I talked about. How do we integrate resiliency? Now, how do we leverage the resources, the natural resources that we have in abundance in Colorado? For instance, we have a project going on right now, and I gathered all of our engineers and planners and architects together and said, as backup, let's not go back to the diesel generator that we have to turn on. Can we leverage the sun and the 300 days of sunshine that we get? Maybe energy storage in whatever form to provide resilience for our ultra-low freezers. We had an outage several years ago, and the ultra-low freezers went down. We lost a lot of research. It cost us $1.3 million in claims. For $1.3 million, could I have installed a system, or can I install a system that could provide that resilience so that I don't have to have that outage? That's better than a backup generator, and I think we can. And so we're working on things like that. So we're trying to think differently than how we did things in the past. We have buildings that are 100 years old that if you walk in there, it's hot. If it's more than 30% humidity, it's unbearable. They just were not designed for the technology and the uses that we have now. So how do we actually, integrate new technologies into these old buildings affordably to make sure that we can actually provide a quality atmosphere for our students, for our faculty, for the research that's going on? It's very expensive to do that. So we're in the process of prioritizing all of those things. But sustainability, resiliency, life cycle cost, impact, reducing the impact, these are all things that are extremely important in what we're working on.
So I'm seeing a few other slides that relate to this notion. Resiliency, for as many decades as I've been working on this stuff, resiliency is the flavor du jour, certainly, right now, and that in part is precipitated by extreme weather events that are expected to continue to be occurring more frequently with greater ferocity. And I'm seeing quite a few slides related to that. Could you talk to us about other systems on campus that you have a lens toward with the notion of resiliency in water, food?
I think the obvious one is energy. I mean, we heard the talk on Puerto Rico. We had Irma, Maria, Sandy. So if you're at all familiar with what happened with Hurricane Sandy, it wasn't that they didn't have generators. It was that they couldn't get the fuel to the generators, right? And so fuel source, distributed, I think, generation and storage is going to help with that. And we're going to have more problems. We're having 500-year storms like every 10 years. It really is an issue. So we need to realize that the climate is changing. How do we react to it, right? How do we plan for that? Those are the things that are extremely important. And I think we're trying to do that for the campus. And we're also trying to have that narrative more broadly with the community. And how do we actually work together as a community, not as a university, as a city, as a business, so that we can help each other get to resiliency. We also talked a little bit about affordable housing and diversity. And so, Boulder being an example, if you have a diversity of skills, for instance, police officers, doctors, lawyers, bankers, plumbers, mechanics, living in the community, if something happens, we can more quickly respond to that. The community can get together and actually respond more quickly to keep the community safe. If the community is made up of people who have trust funds, who don't work, and just happen to have a lot of money, and the gas station goes out, well, guess what? If we are surrounded by water, like what happened in the floods of 2013, we may not have the people who can respond. Similarly, if we have faculty that live close to campus, maybe we don't have to close the campus because they can't come up to Boulder on Highway 36 or from Longmont. So these are all things that I think play a role in resiliency. It's not just energy or one thing. It's a lot of different things that impact it.
Seeing the slide of the aeroponic greenhouse that we built into our most recent dining hall is one that also I think we've got a key aim toward figuring out how much food we can actually grow locally, and that's certainly true in the community as well. I wanted to recognize a colleague in the audience, Jody Hubble, who works with us, waving back there. Will tell you that a mere 4.4% of the funds for the University of Colorado, we are the state university, 4.4% of our budget comes through tax dollars. So that leaves a ton of resources that need to be found elsewhere. And I wanted to ask you, Dave, so you described our aim to have a living learning laboratory that's in an ecosystem of research and some remarkable research underway. We've heard a number of remarkable stories about breakthrough technologies that are in development over the course of the last couple of days. The research underway at the university is quite remarkable, and that actually is mostly our bread and butter. Jody helps us on the advancement front for climate and sustainability, so forewarned is forearmed if you see her coming, and I run. Kidding. But tell us, if you would, a little bit about some of the research that's underway and how you envision some of those technologies that are being developed as being part of our living learning laboratory.
Yeah. One of the things that we're really well known for, Boulder, the state of Colorado, is the beer. So actually, one of the slides that we have on our out here, we have a research project, and actually it's a spin-off now company where they take the waste stream from beer manufacturing and actually make batteries out of it. And so beer to batteries, what a cool concept, right? And I talk about that could be the next Nobel Prize. You all know about the solar tariffs, and we had a really good conversation with the American Council on Renewable Energy and the federal government on how do we actually keep this momentum going with renewables in spite of the tariffs on solar, on steel, and aluminum, because the prices are going to go up. And I think the key theme that came out was we need to invest in research so that we can improve the efficiency of these systems, so that we can actually integrate these systems more effectively, so we can control them more effectively, so we can leverage big data and artificial intelligence so that our buildings become more efficient. Some of the research that we're doing with our faculty members and then with industry, we're doing something on artificial intelligence right now. I can't name the company because we haven't done an announcement, but how do you actually use the built infrastructure and not install new things, but the existing DDC systems and the fans and the compressors, and how do you integrate that more effectively? And I really we think that it's entirely possible to get 30% efficiency in our built infrastructure by just having them operate more smartly, by integrating our calendars to how our lights operate and how our HVAC operates. So that's one example. I think transportation is going to be a game changer with artificial intelligence, autonomous vehicles, energy storage. So we've made some, I think, good strides in that area. We actually are in the process of submitting a Department of Energy grant on first mile, last mile solutions in partnership with RTD, with the city of Boulder, with our local transportation provider via the university. It's a community issue. And so that's kind of our theme, is how do we work as a community to improve quality of service, the bottom line, resiliency, sustainability. Just a little bit more on the transportation side. If we electrify our vehicle fleet, can we share assets? Can we share parking so that we don't have to build, everybody doesn't have to build it? And I told VIA, for instance, if you need a place to park your vehicles and charge your vehicles because your electric infrastructure can't do it, ours can. And so if you park your bus that has the 480 kilowatt battery in it next to my research building, and it can provide that bridge until I can turn the generators on, maybe an hour, I'll give you the parking spot. And that's one type of collaboration. So I think there's just a lot of opportunities to do things.
Shared assets. There's a very cool, a researcher named Khurram Afridi is in our engineering division, and on the electrification of transportation, he is already working with some honking big companies, but we'll have a small triangular device that will be embedded in roadways so that your electric vehicle will not have to be charged in. It will be continually charged as you drive down the road. So there's just some remarkable, brilliant work underway. Anita told me I should just own up to the fact that after I heard the panel yesterday on Arizona State University, I was just thoroughly intimidated because of the great work there, and I thought, oh wow, we have our work cut out for us. Friendly competition, Julie. We're ready to collaborate, but just saying. But would open it up for any advice to us, any comments, any quick questions before we conclude. Yes, ma'am. Wait for the microphone, please. I'm a good girl. Yes, you are. We heard about your great work yesterday, DC.
Oh, I'm just ambassador. And I wanted to just let you know that you have a direct line to the Solar Valley. They have an incredible testing lab there, and they are willing, for 20 years they've been working there. So they have made a lot of mistakes. If you talk to Wang Ming, he will tell you that he would build the Solar Valley completely different, and he will sit there. I have heard him for 2 hours download to major people that are doing fantastic work all over the world, and just download for 2 hours all his learning experiences, what not to do, what to do, and he has a solution for old buildings. The government got him to go and put solar in many schools, and also how to have air conditioning, through solar. And so we're there for you. And then I was wondering whether you are familiar with the University of South Florida and their facilities, because I had an opportunity to visit them with Wang Ming and what they're doing, and they are totally willing to collaborate. So if you need an introduction.
We have two. We have Wang Dazhuo, who's is a researcher in the engineering division again, who was at the University of South Florida, and the director of our environmental center is also an alum.
So, and then the last piece, I want to tell you that Wang Ming has the only micro-emission university on the planet. He's got thousands of students where they're training them all on the renewable engineering, the technology. And again, he is totally willing. He just can't really leave China, but if you go visit there, he will just sit down and download whatever you need.
So great global opportunity, and obviously ASU works globally. I think there are many ways to connect. That's a wonderful suggestion.
Just wanted you to know. And thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Hello,
Yes.
and I'm just thrilled to hear about the work at CU. I think the key is so many of us in these research universities are now recognizing that our job is to collaborate and recognize these big world problems are only going to be done by all of us working on it. So I could not be more proud of CU, having lived in Colorado for many years. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any CU alums in the crowd? Yes, go Buffs, okay. Until we get cut off.
You have a beautiful campus. I had a chance to work there with your Getchison Wilkinson Center. They helped us figure out how to apply the clean tax cut idea to the oil and gas sector to reduce hydrocarbon emissions there. And that will feature in my talk later on today because we included that idea in the proposal. But, you know, one of the things that, you know, concerns me is, you know, how do we incorporate in the curriculum new ideas that are being developed, that are cutting-edge ideas in public policy? I mean, you know, it's one thing to talk about new technology ideas as well, but also the public policy ideas and the also the development process, the design process of a new public policy idea. You know, we have new challenges and we need to innovate public policy as much as we need to innovate technology. You know, we're working with MIT, we've worked with ASU. You guys, you know, we would love to collaborate with you on figuring out how to include ideas like clean tax cuts, new ideas in the program, and also a component about how to develop new ideas, whatever they may be. Do you have anything like that in your curriculum now? And would you be interested in collaborating on something like that?
You know, that is definitely an area that we think we can have a significant impact. Our environmental law is, you know, one of the top-ranked programs in the country. We just brought in Alice Madden, who was a Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary. Right. And so on that, we also have a great business school. And so it's not just technology and engineers solving this. And we were in DC for a long time as well. So we know how public policy can really, really make an impact. And we are definitely interested in having, being a major player in that area. The social sciences also we're very well known for. And so you know, the implications of technology, artificial intelligence, these are not just things that impact the bottom line or how we use things. It also impacts people. And so those are conversations that we're having on campus as well. What are the social impacts? What are the financial impacts? What are the policy barriers and conversations that we need to have in this particular case to push and promote, you know, climate action and sustainability. But yeah, that's definitely something that we're interested in.
We are out of time. Thank you all.